Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're doing part 3 of the MVP of each arc series, covering Metal Fury today. Now, this is a part 3, so I do recommend you go watch parts 1 and 2 before you watch this one. In the first 2 parts, I go way further into depth, explaining what the criteria was for the MVP, and all the little nuances, so definitely go check those videos out. They will be linked in the description. Now, just for a brief explanation, the MVP award goes to the blader who had the best performances in each arc, which means the strongest blader does not always get it. For example, Ryuga was in the Excalibur arc, and he was by far the strongest blader in that arc, yet Tsubasa won the MVP because he had more battles, more meaningful wins, and he had a nice narrative story, which always helps. So yeah, keep in mind this is not a World's Strongest Blader award. We've already done a series like that, so feel free to check it out. And then one more thing before we get started is the unanimous MVP. This gets awarded when a blader is far and away the clear MVP winner with no real competition. It's only been awarded 4 times across 2 full seasons worth of arcs, so it's a pretty exclusive award. Now, we're about to jump right in, and make sure to stick around because at the end of the video, we're going to be tallying up all the MVP winners across all 3 seasons to see who's won the most MVPs, who's won the MVP back-to-back, who's got the most unanimous MVPs, and much more. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the first arc of Metal Fury, the Star Fragment arc, which is episodes 103 to 105. Not much went down here. Jinga and Kyoya got their upgrades, we met Yuki and thus received the Star Fragment storyline. As for the MVP though, it was between Jinga and Kyoya. They tied with each other. Jinga had a battle with Johannes, and Kyoya got involved at the very end. There wasn't much to go off of in this arc, so I did have to pick apart Jinga and Kyoya's battle a little bit more than I would have wanted to. And after rewatching this battle, to me, Kyoya was a bit more impressive. He had Jinga pinned in the mud, then there was the huge blast, and then the upgrades happened. So I'm not saying Jinga got bailed out by the upgrades or anything, but Kyoya did have the upper hand before that. Also, Jinga was struggling with Johannes, which isn't a huge thing because Johannes is just difficult to fight against, but it doesn't help when Kyoya launched one attack to Johannes and it did more damage than Jinga ever did in his fight. So yeah, I got Kyoya winning this MVP, Jinga in second place, and then Johannes in third place for challenging Jinga. Let me know your thoughts. This was one of the weaker arcs. I could definitely see Jinga being the MVP here, but let's move on. Now we got the Volcano arc, or the Island arc, episodes 106 to 109, and the MVP here is clearly Ryuga, and it's so clear to the point where we're naming him the unanimous MVP. He beat Kyoya, Jinga, and then Yuki back to back to back, all relatively easily. This is a very easy decision. Then we got Jinga in second place for his performance against Ryuga, and then we got Kyoya in third place for his performance. Honorable mention for Yuki. He awakened as a legendary blader, but he just wasn't able to do much against Ryuga. But yeah, I feel like this arc was very easy, so let's move on to the next one, which is the Toriumon arc, episodes 110 to 114, and the clear MVP is Aguma. He beat Jinga, Yuki, Kyoya, and Benkei, and he really established himself as a massive threat. Then second place I got Jinga for basically 2v1ing Deshayan and Chiyun with his special move. That's a pretty underrated moment that I don't think about a lot. And then we got Kyoya in third place for beating Johannes, which is a pretty underrated win. And then, look, there could be arguments for making Aguma a unanimous MVP. The only reason I didn't do that is because Jinga put up a great performance in this arc as well. And usually to win the unanimous MVP, you've got to have some insane wins and just an overall amazing performance, which Aguma did have. But then you also need to get kind of lucky and have the rest of your competition not really do much in that arc. And unfortunately for Aguma, Jinga did pretty good in this arc. But yeah, I feel like this is yet another arc where I don't think it was very difficult to rank. Pretty straightforward. So let's move on to something more interesting. The Destroyer Dome arc, episodes 115 to 119. We'll give the MVP to King because he had a crazy performance in the tournament, and he ultimately won it, defeating Masamune, Jigsaw, and Tsubasa. I mean, that's a pretty crazy lineup. And then we got Masamune in second place for making it to the finals. He challenged King and looked pretty impressive throughout the tournament. And then we actually have Ryuga in third place for his win over Tsubasa. He made that look easy, and trust me, Tsubasa is anything but an easy win. And I know this battle didn't take place at the Destroyer Dome tournament like the name of this arc would suggest, but the battle took place the episode prior to the tournament, so we included it in this arc. Now, I don't think any of these picks are very controversial, but let me know if you disagree, of course. So now let's move on to one of my favorite arcs. We have the Mist Mountain arc, episode 120 to 124. I gave Kiyoya the MVP here, and that may seem a little biased. Let me explain. In this arc, Kiyoya had a huge win over Aguma. And look, in hindsight, maybe this doesn't look super impressive, because nowadays we think of Aguma as one of the weaker legendary bladers. I mean, he lost to Kiyoya, then he lost to King, then to Tiffy. I mean, he had quite the fall off. But at this point in time, in the Mist Mountain arc, he was still top tier with the knowledge that we had. He beat Jinga, he beat Kiyoya, he beat Yuki. So, besides Ryuga, of course, we had plenty of reason to believe that Aguma was the next strongest legendary blader. And for Kiyoya to come in and beat Aguma, avenging his loss, is pretty huge. I mean, within the confines of this arc, this is a massive win that I think warrants the MVP for Kiyoya. Then we got Dynamis in second place for beating Ryuto, and then having a great performance against Jinga. And then we have Jinga in third place for his win over Ryuto, and then putting up a good performance against Dynamis. So, let me know your thoughts here. There is definitely a case for Dynamis to be the MVP. I think if we got to see more of his match against Jinga, which I've said many times that I believe he probably would have won, then I would have to give him the MVP over Kiyoya. But unfortunately, that battle got cut very short. So now let's move on to the Baster Island arc, which is episodes 125 to 128. And I gotta say, this one is pretty interesting. I got Chris narrowly winning this MVP over Ryuga. First of all, Chris won the tournament, which is huge. He 2v1'd Toby and Zio with literally no difficulty, and then once he awakened, he beat Masamune like it was nothing. I mean, it was a good battle, but at no point did Masamune ever have any chance whatsoever. Literally every attack was getting shut down, and then the final special move from Chris was wraps. I mean, bro, he literally ate Striker. Also, just the amount of power this special move has, like, this has got to be one of the most impressive special moves, at least visually, that I've ever seen. I mean, the energy forming from the constellation, and then the explosion itself, like, dude, this is literally an atomic bomb. I mean, just crazy stuff. And then second place goes to Ryuga. He got a fantastic win over King, and then he was draining Chris's power for a bit. I think if Ryuga was able to get one more win in this arc, I'd have given him the MVP, but I'll stick with Chris for now. And then third place, I have King for his win over Aguma, and then a very impressive effort against Ryuga. As always, let me know your thoughts. I definitely see the argument for Ryuga here, but I did ultimately land on Chris. Now, moving on to the shortest arc of the series, we have the Tiffy arc, episodes 129 to 130. My MVP here is Tiffy. I mean, he's the only one who got a win in this arc, and it was a pretty impressive one. Then in second place, I got Yu for a good match against Kiyoya, and then he gave Tiffy a good fight. I thought it was particularly impressive that Yu survived Kiyoya's special move, and then we got Kiyoya himself in third place for a good match against Yu. He'd have been higher if he fought Tiffy, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. There was only 3 people who participated in battles in this arc, so I guess it worked out perfectly. But yeah, I don't think this one's very controversial either, so we're going to move on to the Revival arc, episodes 131 to 135, and this arc basically covers the episode after the Tiffy arc, to the full revival of Nemesis. The MVP here pretty easily goes to Rago. First of all, Prototype Nemesis tanked the combined special moves of Chris, Aguma, and Dynamis. I mean, that is just wild. And then later on in the arc, all the legendary bladers arrive, and Nemesis is just toying with them. Then second place, I got Jinga for an amazing win over Chris. I think that win speaks for itself. And then we got Kiyoya in third place for beating Dynamis. And this would have been more impressive had Dynamis not been controlled by Pluto, but still a pretty good win. Now, special shout out to Kenta, because this is the arc where he cracked El Drago's face bolt, but that was just not enough to get him on the podium, in my opinion. This was a pretty competitive arc, but let me know your thoughts, of course. But with that being said, we are going to go ahead and move on to the final arc of Metal Fury, the Nemesis arc, episodes 136 to 141. Our MVP here is, of course, Jinga Hagane. He was the last one standing in the Nemesis fight, even before he got everyone's power, and ultimately, he is the one who saved the world. Then we have Ryuga in second place for his fight against Rago. Sure, he didn't win, and honestly, he was never even close, but if you think about it, Ryuga by himself lasted longer against Nemesis than the legendary bladers fighting together. I mean, look, we all know how crazy this matchup is. He went in to face the God of Destruction by himself with no help, and he put up a fantastic effort. He even had the opponent saying, like, wow, we can see why you call yourself the world's strongest. So, I mean, yeah, this is an easy second place for Ryuga. And then we actually have Kenta in third place. I really did want Kenta to get the MVP here because he just deserves it so much. He got his upgrade from Ryuga, then he tanked some point-blank attacks from Rago himself, while also getting a fantastic win against Pluto. I mean, if there hadn't been so many huge battles within this arc, Kenta definitely would have gotten the MVP. But instead, we'll give him the MIP, the MIP, the Most Improved Player Award, which is also an award in the NBA, because I feel like he deserves something here. And this award definitely fits. I mean, I don't know if anyone has improved this much in one arc. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was the final arc of the video. But don't go anywhere because we're about to tally up all the MVPs across all 3 seasons to see who won the most. We'll start at the bottom with the Bladers who have won 1 MVP. In this group, we have guys like Hiyoma, Yu, Masamune, Julian, Damien, Aguma, King, Chris, Tiffy, and Rago. This is some pretty solid company to be in here, but now let's move on to 2 Bladers who have managed to rack up 3 MVPs apiece. We have Tsubasa and Ryuga. Now, I honestly expected Ryuga to have a few more MVPs by the end, and he very well could have. I mean, he was 2nd and 3rd place very often. I think it mainly came down to his wins being pretty spread apart in some seasons. Like, the caliber of wins that Ryuga has are probably second to none, but in a lot of arcs, he only has 1 battle, where other Bladers can have like 2 or 3, and thus win the MVP over him. And then for Tsubasa, bro, I'm just so happy he's made it this far. Big Tsubasa fan over here. Then, next up, we have the main man himself, Jinga Hagane, with 5 MVPs. That's to be expected. I mean, Jinga's been in the show since day 1. He's always been very good. He has a ton of battles in which he was able to earn those MVPs. Then, in first place, ladies and gentlemen, the Blader who racked up the most MVPs across all 3 seasons, we have the Wild King of Beasts himself, Kiyoya Tatagami. He just barely reached the top with 6 MVPs compared to Jinga's 5. And look, while Kiyoya was never really stronger than Ryuga or Jinga, that doesn't matter for the sake of this video. All that really matters here were the performances you put up in each arc, and Kiyoya had so many amazing performances across all 3 seasons. I mean, even in arcs where he didn't win the MVP, he was usually hovering around the top 3 podium, and as a Kiyoya fan, I gotta say, I'm pretty happy. Now, to give you a bit more statistics, I guess, the unanimous MVP was given out a total of 5 times across all 3 seasons, and these 5 unanimous MVPs basically represent the most dominant performances within an arc across the entire show. But okay, the first unanimous MVP went to Jinga in the Pegasus Has Landed arc, then we gave it to Ryuga in the Forbidden Bay arc, then Julian got it in the Lavushka arc, then Damien got it in the USA arc, and then finally Ryuga won it once again in the Volcano arc. Now, all of these MVPs are extremely impressive, but we do have to talk about how Ryuga won it twice. That is beyond impressive. The unanimous MVP is literally dominance personified, and this guy did it twice. That's unreal. And then we also did have some cases of consecutive MVPs, or as I like to say, back-to-back MVPs. The first one was Jinga, winning 2 MVPs in a row for the first 2 arcs of Metal Fusion. And then we actually had Tsubasa winning the MVP back-to-back in the Excalibur arc and the Garcia arc. So, winning the MVP 2 times in a row has only been done twice by these 2 guys. Big props to them. And yeah, guys, that is going to wrap up this video. This was yet another fun series here on the channel, so let me know if there's any other types of videos you want to see. Here's a fun question. If you could recommend me a show that I should watch and potentially make videos about, what would it be? I'm always looking for new things to watch. But anyways, thank you guys so much, as always, for watching, and I will see you in the next video.